Hi, welcome to today's devotional podcast with Dr. Jacob Al. We are continuing our series, Naked and Not Ashamed, Sexual Intimacy in Christian Marriages. And we have just started looking at the common problems of love making among Christian couples, and for that matter, almost all other couples. Today, we're going to look at one of the major problems, which is known as premature ejaculation. And this is part one of premature ejaculation, and it will be uh, episode 47. Episode 47, premature ejaculations, sometimes also known as ED, erectile dysfunction. But uh, let's look at the Word of God once again before we begin. It says, "For with God nothing will be impossible." That's Luke 1:37. With God nothing shall be impossible. And so, whatever premature ejaculation problems you are going through, understand that with God nothing shall be impossible. And we will begin by addressing ejaculation control, since premature ejaculation is a frequent cause of female orgasmic dysfunction. So, this is interesting. Now, this is a problem of a man, but invariably, because they have become one, especially in the act of sexual intercourse, it causes a problem for the wife. And so you will have the wife suffering from what is called female orgasmic dysfunction. And what it simply means is that these are situations where the couples have been married for several years, or maybe just a couple of years, but yet the wife has never experienced what is known as orgasm, as we discussed in the previous series. And so she especially again, if she had never known a man before she got married, let's say she was a virgin and she hadn't been actively involved in premarital sex, and she got married as a virgin, and she finds out that the husband is suffering from uh, premature ejaculation. Then what happens is that this person would never have experienced what is called orgasm, because of the problem of the husband ejaculating prematurely. She never is given the chance to be aroused to a point that she can gain orgasm. So she, not knowing what orgasm is, being a virgin and not even ever having an encounter with any other man who probably could have prolonged the erection, and helped her gain orgasm, she being just the first uh, woman, or the first encounter in this act of sexual intercourse, she eventually develops what is called the female orgasmic dysfunction. Her body shuts down to an extent that it does not even perceive that there's anything like orgasm. In other words, she just thinks that, okay, well, is this all about sex? Is this what sex is all about? Uh, my husband gets into me, and within 2 seconds, he's through, and that's it. Is that all about sex? And so, such women are left to be orgasmic, become orgasmic dysfunctional, and it becomes a problem for the wife, even though it's invariably a man's problem. And that is why men should begin to look at this as a problem for the whole family, because uh, you may be able to lust in her for a minute or two or seconds and release yourself and be free. But what you have just done is you have denied your wife the pleasure of love making. And so her body, if you are the only man she's ever known, will make her begin to feel that that is what sex is all about. And especially if you are the type of man who does not take time during the foreplay, then this woman becomes orgasmic dysfunctional. Her body has never experienced orgasm. And so all she thinks of about sex is, I just have to lie down and allow my husband to have his way through me. And immediately he does his thing, he gets up, leaves me, then I have to lie down and suffer throughout the night without sleeping because he just aroused me and I'm left there gasping and not knowing what to do. And this is the problem with a lot of Christian marriages. The women are given a raw deal, so to speak, just because the problem is that of the man. They think that it is not their problem. After all, it's my woman who is slow. I expect her to join me immediately I enter her. But she's so slow that I cannot keep it for long. I can't wait for long. So the man who is able to probably maintain his erection for a minute or two and ejaculate thinks that there's nothing wrong with him. And so most men don't even accept the fact that they have a problem. And because sex is something that is a taboo to talk about, especially the satisfaction of the woman during the act of sexual intercourse in most African cultures, for example, it's a taboo to talk about it. They just shut up and keep quiet and go through the marriage never being fulfilled. And at the end of the day, they ask themselves, is this what sex is all about? And the man may feel, well, hey, uh, I get I get my wife impregnated, so what's the big deal? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm potent. Man, listen, the fact that you go into her 2, 3 seconds and ejaculate and you get her pregnant does not necessarily mean that you are satisfying her sexually. Okay? And so you need to understand that it's your problem. And until you accept that it's a problem, that your erection cannot last more than 5 minutes, 20 minutes, even up to 20 minutes, to bring her up to a point that she will also be pleasurized in your love making, you need to accept that it's a problem and do your best to fix your problem and don't accuse your wife of being slow to catch up with you. She's not fast. And this sometimes is the complaint of most men, as we read in the last episode. Say, well, I work so tired. I work throughout the day. I'm so tired trying to make a living for the house. Then, when I come, I just don't have the time to prolong this whole thing. So I don't know what the big deal is. It is a big deal. Honestly, it is a big deal. It's your problem. And because it's your problem, you have given the disease to your wife. Now she has become female orgasmic dysfunctional because of your uh, premature ejaculation. You don't give her time to be aroused through phase one, phase two, let alone phase three, where she will be in the position to gain orgasm. And so when men, this is not pointed out to men, they hardly think they have a problem. But if you're a man and when you insert or enter your wife and you can't last for more than 5 minutes in her, then you need to understand that you have an ED problem, or you cannot prolong the foreplay and stick on the foreplay within a period of 30 minutes, then you have an ED problem. So the thing is this, okay? Uh, this may be new to some of you men listening today, and that is why you should stay tuned. The problem also pertains to the wife's inability during intravaginal containment uh, to control ejaculation for a long enough period to satisfy his wife. Obviously, this problem is the husband's, not the wife's. The husband's inability. So, because of your inability, you have passed it on to your wife, and it is said that um, for because long enough, because you cannot contain your erection long enough for a period of up to uh, 30 minutes, his wife, in at least 50% of their time of sexual interaction, is not satisfied. Okay? Therefore, the husband performs ejaculation before he desires to do so. That's an erectile dysfunction. When, as a man, you cannot control when you ejaculate. And for I have heard some couples even complain that um, his man ejaculates even before uh, he inserts his penis into her vagina. So even it's not even before they get to the point of uh, insertion, the person has already ejaculated. It is a serious problem, and that needs to be addressed. And until the man accepts that it is a problem, then it's going to be difficult to solve. So, what are the reasons? What could be the reason why? And believe me, this is not restricted to men who are 30 years, 40 years, or 50 or 60 years old. This problem has become even more prevalent among young adults, newly married couple, young adults. It has become a problem. And so, why and how did this problem come about? So, number one, poor learning at the beginning of a marriage is a significant contributing factor to premature ejaculation. So, in some cases, a husband may ejaculate for many nights after he takes his wife in his arms on the wedding night, especially if he has built up great tension during the courtship and engagement. So, the thing is this, for newlywed couples, as I said, marriage counselors need to do a lot, take enough time, learn about this, and do a detailed sex counseling to newly married couples, especially our young men. When we ask them to keep themselves pure before marriage, not to be engaged in any form of premarital sex, you have to understand that they have disciplined themselves and kept themselves pure for a long time. They cannot wait for the honeymoon night. The tension has been building over the period of time. And so the guy is eager to see what is in the bride. And very often during the honeymoon period, uh, now once the knot has been tied and the man knows that, he now has permission to enter his wife. Um, he the whole tension releases, and by the time he realizes he's ejaculating, and for some newly married couples, it will change because once this has happened 1 or 2 times, and you get used to it, you could learn some exercises that can help you discipline yourself to withhold ejaculation for some time. So it's common. Now, if they have not been informed, if the couple during counseling has not been informed that, look, especially if you are a virgin and this is your first time, you have to understand that this and this and this could occur. So what do you do to prevent that from happening? Don't be eager to insert immediately. Prolong your time of foreplay with your newlywed bride and give her time to build up. Don't be eager to insert. For most men, we think that sexual intercourse is all about getting your penis into your wife's vagina, but that could be further from the truth. There can be non insertion sexual fulfillment. In other words, you can fulfill each other sexually without necessarily having the man's penis penetrate or get inserted into the wife's vagina. And these are things that most men are ignorant about. And so, for young people, uh, if they haven't been counseled and given the necessary uh, information, especially when they are married to a virgin, if you haven't received premarital counseling in the area of how your wife's vagina uh, is a little tight because she's a virgin, and especially there's a hymen at the front of her vagina that needs to be broken before you can penetrate her, you may force your way through, and because that is her first time, her vaginal walls are so tight that there'll be strong friction, and so you trust your penis in her once or twice and you find yourself ejaculating. And that will be normal because why? It is her first time, the vaginal walls are very tight, and they would begin to loosen up as she continues to have sexual intercourse with you. But what would have happened before this time is to be aware that because it is her first time, she may not secrete enough lubricants, the natural lubricants that lubricates her vagina before you insert your penis may not have been enough. And so, if you were not counseled to get artificial lubricants to lubricate her vagina so that it is not so tight for you as first time couples inserting each other, then you will make the mistake of forcing your way through her. And because it's dry and tight, a matter of two trust would find yourself coming. you find yourself ejaculating, and you may not necessarily have ED problems. If you realize this and you don't take time to correct this, then it could develop into a permanent ED problem. And what do I mean by that? If you realize that maybe for the first week or two, newly married couples, you realize that uh, the walls of your wife's vagina is very tight, and you realize that, okay, maybe for the first time you were able to break her hymen, but then she still feel pains anytime you insert, then you need to understand that there is no enough lubrication, natural lubrication. That is why she is feeling pains even after your first encounter with her. And therefore, there's nothing wrong extending the time of foreplay. You need to discipline yourself and don't be eager to get into her immediately you start the love play. Make discipline yourself. It calls for discipline. That's what I said. Some of these exercises calls for discipline. So there are several things that you can be doing in the meantime to get her to a point that her natural lubricants will be released automatically as hormones are sent from her brains into the area of her vagina. And if you don't take time to do this, then it is recommended that you can get artificial lubricants, especially if she is a virgin, so that her first experience in sexual encounter is not made to an extent that she will feel that she's being hurt each time she is having an encounter with her husband. It is very, very important. And so sexual interaction, therefore, the husband performs ejaculation before he shows desires. That's what happens in erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation. The husband virtually has no control of his ejaculation because it just comes whenever he's aroused, and then it becomes a problem for the wife because she is left unsatisfied. She is not given the time to reach her peak to be able to gain orgasm. So invariably, what is the man's problem morphs into the woman's problem because she then would develop what is called female orgasmic dysfunction. Her body has not been brought to a point where she gains orgasm. And if she's a virgin and has never had an experience with any other man, she may not even know what orgasm is. And I have talked to many young couples where this has been the case. And so it all depends on you, the man, because as a man, you may think you have no problem. Well, I'm able to go into her. It takes 2 or 3 minutes, but I ejaculate and I make her pregnant. So, what's the big deal? There is a big deal. The fact that you insert and you release your sperms and she's impregnated does not necessarily mean that you are going through the processes of foreplay and arousal to a point that she is satisfied. So you have women complaining that they have been married for 20 years and they don't know even what orgasm means. They don't know what it is. And so they complain, is sex all about just making babies? And it's because you, the man, you haven't taken the patience and the time to understand that your problem has morphed or has eventually caught up with your wife. And it is a simple thing that can be corrected. And so when that is the first issue, when there's so much tension in the man, you have kept yourselves pure, avoided sex, premarital sex, And for the first night, your first honeymoon, the first night of your honeymoon, this happens. It's natural. You don't have to panic. You don't have to be disturbed. You have to understand that you have kept yourself and the tensions has built. You have been expecting this day. And so the day comes, your wife takes off her wedding gowns, you undress her, and maybe for the first time you see your wife naked. You become so excited that, and boom, you ejaculate. Even before you get to insert her. Don't panic. Don't feel that there's something wrong with you. It's natural because the tensions have built all over. And especially if you were not told during your premarital sex and counseling that this could happen, for you to prepare, then you will be disillusioned. And your wife will say, what? Where is the honeymoon? Because for some men, once they ejaculate, it takes them 24 hours or takes them time, an hour or two, for them to get an erection again. So your wife lies down on the bed, on the honeymoon bed, thinking, what is this? She becomes disillusioned, and the marriage begins with problems. Instead of it being a blissful night, honeymoon night, it becomes a night of disaster. And this is why this is very important. And young Christian couples who have kept themselves pure should not be denied of this information so that they will take precautionary measures even before this time. So that could be one of the reasons. But however, another reason is this. In addition, some men sometimes mistakenly view a quick release as a sign of masculinity. Consequently, they cannot appreciate the joy that comes with consistent love making with their wives till she gains orgasm during sexual intercourse. When they can control the timing of their ejaculation. Now, and this is a myth that some men have. Well, hey, the fact that we start and boom, I'm through it shows that I'm a man. No, 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 no. You have a problem. It doesn't in any way show you are a man. The, you are only a man if you have the capacity and the ability to bring your wife to the climax that she feels pleasurized and not it just being a selfish act of your own. So this myth must be dismissed that the faster you can come through your wife, the more masculine you are. It's a myth. It's not true. You need to disabuse yourself. It's a selfish act. And so there is no masculinity in this. You are selfish and you have no interest in satisfying your wife and you just want to have your way through and you have turned your wife into a sex machine. And that should not be true. That should not be so in a Christian marriage. You are both expected to enjoy one another. Remember, your bodies are for each other. Okay? So, men should disabuse themselves of this myth and work towards uh, consistently uh, providing pleasure for their wives. And if you make it your goal in the act of love making to pleasurize your wife, believe me, you in turn will be pleasurized. Okay. So, and again, another problem is sexual experience before marriage or premarital sex can sometimes cause the problem of premature ejaculation. And what does that mean? Now, if you were a playboy before you got married, I mean, you were used to just having sex. Now, remember, especially if you were a Christian and you knew that you were not supposed to be having premarital sex and you did it all the same, remember, during those encounters, you are always filled with guilt. And so when you have an opportunity you want to get it done and be done away with. So you didn't take time to go through the process of arousal. Because you were stealing and doing it, you did it quickly just to get away with it. You didn't want to be caught. And sometimes you did it in places where it was not conducive. So you fear to be caught. And so you had to quickly do it and ejaculate and leave. Now, that same mentality is carried on into your marriage. And so if this is not addressed at the premarital counseling, when you get married, you still have this sense of guilt. And so you think that as before, hey, you need to do it hurriedly and get away with it. You forget that now you have the right to have your wife, she's yours, and you can have her for the whole night. And the night next, she's now yours. She's on the bed with you. She's not going anywhere. You forget that. Why? Because you were engaged in premarital sex where you hurriedly did it to get the woman out of the way so you are not caught. So during the premarital counseling, if this is not addressed, it is invariably going to become a problem. And because over the years, if you were a playboy and you did it quickly, just imagine you never had time to seriously engage your partner in the various acts of arousal as we have learned. There are 4 parts of arousal. You never even went past the first one. All you were interested in is getting it done and getting off the hook. And so you created a system in you that your sexual functioning and genitalial is used to quick release. And so even now, when you are married, you forget that this time you don't have to be guilty, you don't have to feel guilty. You have a role of pleasurizing your wife. But because your genitalia has been used to this quick play over the years, you now have to adjust. And that could be the cause of matured ejaculation. Another problem is if you were involved in masturbation. And it's sad to say that even Christian parents encourage their sons to masturbate. And they have no idea how that could affect them when they get married. When you masturbate, you don't take time to keep long. Your goal is to ejaculate. And so you cause the fastest amount of friction that you can put on your prick through, and then you ejaculate. And so what happens is that, again, your genitalia is used to fast ejaculation. So when you get married, and believe me, if you were deeply involved in pornography, it becomes a problem. It becomes a problem to be able to satisfy your wife because immediately you see her nakedness and you see her opening, your mind comes back to your desire to release yourself because invariably no successful masturbation is done without picturing a mood or nude or naked vagina. You always had that picture in your mind. So now when you are married, you have the real deal. And so immediately you see the real deal, the picture that you had harbored in your mind that helped you masturbate and ejaculate takes over your system. And then your genitalia says it's time to release and get it done. And boom, you come. And your wife is lying suffering. You probably even haven't even inserted yet, and your wife is left lying down. This is as a result of what happened before you got married. But thanks be to God, all this can be fixed. It needs discipline and taking of some exercises, as we have said. So the hurried pattern of love making can be formed by a constant pattern combined with stimulation to ejaculate and masturbation, as I said. There is a sense of guilt concerning premarital acts, and in such furtive acts, there is a continuous pressure to get it over with before anyone discovers what is going on. So after marriage, the husband usually continues to prematurely ejaculate until he realizes that he has to change. Now, learning how to adjust to patiently romance the wife to sexual intimacy is always an ongoing process. It's not something that can happen automatically. So you need to understand the process of being able to discipline yourself and prolong the arousal stages to bring your wife to a climax is a process, and it's an act of discipline. There are a lot of things that can be done, and we'll be looking at that will help you correct the situation. So premature ejaculation is problematic for the wife because it does not provide complete sexual satisfaction to her. So as I was saying, it is a problem of the man that has been transferred to the woman. Okay, the woman is there, she's lying down, she's ready, but the man has come. His erection is gone, and it's going to take him an hour or two or the next day before a new erection will come. What do you expect the woman to do? See, so you may say that, oh, okay, it's not my problem. But your problem is invariably being transferred to your woman. She is a biological being. She has needs. You have just aroused her desire, and then you come and your erection is gone, and she now has to suffer. That is why, as a man, you have to be real. Accept the fact that it is a problem and seek the help that you need, because you are affecting the love encounter or experience of your wife. And it is your responsibility to satisfy her. And believe me, if it's a non Christian marriage, or even there have been times where, even in Christian marriages, the wife becomes fed up, and maybe a colleague at work begins to flirt with her. And for some reason, somehow, it blossoms into an affair. And she gets to realize that, oh, so, hey, this foreplay, this love making can be extended, and I can get to enjoy it. How come my husband hasn't been giving me this? This is when she begins to think of, hey, I'm not being satisfied in this marriage. Why should I stay? My husband cannot satisfy me. So you have caused that because you failed to satisfy her. She married you as a virgin. She hasn't known any man yet, and you are supposed to bring her to the peak and deliver her sexual satisfaction and pleasure. You fail to do that to a point that she's never gained orgasm, and she feels sex is not exciting. Then mistakenly she gets this experience with this co-worker who is patient enough to romance her and bring her to the peak where she gains orgasm. What do you think will happen? What do you think will happen? She will begin to think that you don't care about her, you are incapable of satisfying her. She will begin drifting towards this co-worker. And invariably, you will hear, hey, I need divorce because I deserve to be happy and I'm not happy in this marriage. And these are the situations that leads to the breaking of Christian marriages and divorce. And that is why it is important that you tune into this teaching and see how you can correct this situation with just simple discipline and exercises. So, because she has no way of releasing her physical tension, she grows increasingly resentful at being used as a sex machine rather than loved sexually. So, what happens in this situation is she's being used sexually rather than being loved sexually. Now, when you use somebody sexually, your goal is to just penetrate, boom, get release, and then leave her. That is being using her, using your wife as a sex machine. You treating your wife as a prostitute. And I've heard this over and over in Christian marriages. You need to be patient, you need to be disciplined, and go through the various processes of arousal to get her to a point that she will also enjoy love making. So, the ordinary course of events is that after several years, the husband and the wife withdraw from specific sexual commitments. The man loses his confidence as a man, and the wife loses her confidence as a woman. He may even lose his ability to maintain an erection. Now, if the husband becomes more and more anxious about not pleasing his wife, what is called idiopathic impotence may result. So, idiopathic impotence is the fact that because of the anxiety that the man feels that he may come and may not be in the position of satisfying, holding up to satisfy his wife, the nerves from the anxiety takes over the body and shuts everything down to a point that he doesn't even have any erection anymore. That's what is called idiopathic impotency. And this can be corrected. The anxiety doesn't need to be there. Certain exercises can help resolve this. And if this does happen, the marriage may become quiet, hostile, and without sex. And this could eventually lead to the couples looking elsewhere to satisfy their sexual needs. This sometimes is if something is not done quickly. So when you get to a point where your anxiety and your fear of being incapable of satisfying your wife takes over your body and shuts down your erection, then it becomes a problem. You need to seek help and seek help fast. If not, somebody else is going to give it to your wife and she will be satisfied and she will think that deserves to be happy. And I hear that very often in America here. Blatantly, the woman will tell you, hey, Pastor Jacob, listen, I'm not satisfied sexually. He's he just does his things and he doesn't care about me. Don't I deserve to be happy? They will ask you, don't I deserve to be happy? Don't I deserve to be pleasurized as well? And very often it's hard to answer. But the fact is, yes, she deserves to be pleasurized. She deserves to be pleasurized. And so, you, the man, you need to take charge, you need to take responsibility, accept the fact that there's a problem, and do your best to seek the help that is needed to address this problem. But if you are a Christian, you know that there's nothing impossible for the Lord. Have you talked to the Lord about your ED issue? No. Some people think, hey, how can I talk to Jesus about sexual dysfunction or premature ejaculation? Why not? He says, talk to him, ask, and it shall be given unto you. Now, when you ask, you seek for wisdom, and you will be given. And this simple problem will be resolved. And we will see it as we look at those simple things that you can do to resolve the problem. But with God, nothing shall be impossible. Don't let erectile dysfunction ruin your marriage. Don't let erectile dysfunction make you incapable of satisfying your wife. That a mistake is done and she looks somewhere, somebody gives it to her, and she thinks that, hey, she deserves to be happy, and she asks for divorce. That's invariably what happens if you fail to satisfy her. You can't blame her, you have yourself to blame. So let us pray. We're going to pray and ask the Lord. If you are both Christians, great. You can talk to the Lord about this, and the Lord is capable of helping you out. Shall we pray? Our Lord and Savior Jesus, thank you for helping me through this situation. We trust that this knowledge that we have gained today will help us proceed together in our love making encounter, understanding that it is our responsibility to satisfy each other. In your precious name, I pray with thanksgiving. Amen. Beloved, if you have listened to this podcast, stay tuned. We will still part two of premature ejaculation will come. And then once we have exhausted the causes, the root causes of the problems, we will begin looking at the solutions to the problem. Thank you for taking time to listen to today's devotional podcast. Don't forget to send me inbox messages, like our website, our YouTube, and Facebook, and go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So anytime a new episode is uploaded, you will be given an alert. Thank you and have a blessed day. God bless. Thank you. Bye.